Everyone ready? Okay, let's go.
So this is Tier 8 of PSGL, Rank 7 of Season 32 at Portugal. I missed 4 out of the 5 previous races due to my pedals breaking, and I believe one was because of a blackout, so I've got a lot of ground to make up in the championship. I didn't feel great in practice for this round, but forecasts for the race showed potential rain, so it's all to play for. And since there was a chance of rain, I gambled and put extra downforce on. But the problem is, qualifying is completely dry and I haven't done any laps in the dry with all this downforce on, so the car is going to feel very different this session. Either way, we start our first run qualifying. The RS open, down to turn 1, and we brake way too early and turn in way too early. Getting accustomed to the extra downforce, and once again we brake and turn in too early for turn 2. And then later on the lap we end up invalidating. We still finish the lap just to have a delta on the board, but at 18.5, and that just leaves us right at the back of the pack. So now for my second run in qualifying, I use what I learned from the first run. And now let's see what I can do in this second lap. The RS open. On the way down to turn 1. Brake after the 100 meter. This time I got a better turn 1, but not so great into turn 2. That was okay, a little early. Now onto the back straight. Getting ready to brake for this hairpin. The brake seemed just about right. Now, in the middle of the second sector, this tricky right-hand hairpin. That seemed pretty okay. Now into this tricky right-hander. Got an accelerator early. I think that was the best exit out of there. Now into the final sector. We actually went purple in the middle sector. I'm not sure if that's a glitch in the game or if it's because we have the extra downforce, but now we're onto the final corner. Coming to the end of the lap, 6 tenths up. And that gives us a 17.9 and puts us in P7 for now. A good bit off the leaders though.
Okay, so far our fastest lap
5
is
tenths off the leaders.
17.9.
Now at this point I was thinking I could probably get 4 tenths easy. That would put me right among the top 5, so that's what was going through my head right now. Try and get those 4 tenths. So now we begin our final run in qualifying. Over the line to begin the lap. And let's see how we get turn 1. A little bit better. 200s up, 300s up. Now into turn 2. We got a better exit this time.
And that's just 30
and that puts us
session.
almost 2 tenths up going down the back straight. Lose a bit of time through that hairpin. It's still 2.5 tenths up. Miss the apex through the right-hander. We still managed to keep the delta at 2.5 tenths. And into this right-hander we gain a lot of time for a better exit. I'll go purple again in the middle sector. Through the final section, gaining more time. Now 5 tenths up. Try to get to the line as quick as possible and keep those 5 tenths. And over the line we get a 1 minute 17.4, and that puts us second place for qualifying, second place for on the grid for the race.
Holy Jesus.
So as we can see, the race is completely dry and the gamble to put extra downforce on didn't pay off, so that's gonna make the race a bit more tricky. I also needed to make sure I put enough fuel because the extra downforce was gonna burn more fuel, and also try to move as much downforce as I could without sacrificing the balance of the car. Now, for the start of the race, no formation lap, just straight into the race. There are 3 laps to Portugal, 5 red lights, and off we go. I got a bit of wheel spin into second gear, so the Red Bull draws alongside. Into turn 1, I push him a bit wide, and now into turn 2 he's still alongside. While on the exit, I finally keep second place. The Red Bull started on the mediums and myself and the Ferrari went for the more traditional strat in this game of starting on the hards first, and that's gonna mean he's going to have more grip for the start of the race, so keeping him behind is probably not going to be possible. Into the second half of the first lap, I get a little wiggle out of there, but so far everything seems to be clean. Ferrari runs it a bit wide there, and the Red Bull is right up behind my gearbox. All the extra grip from the medium tyres. He's shaping up to go for the move into turn 1. Ferrari and myself both ran it a bit wide through the last corner. Now on to the start for the straight. I'm gonna stop burning my energy and just let the Red Bull go through. There's no reason to try and hold him up. He's on a different strategy and we'll get him back late in the race. We almost run into the back of him into turn 2. And he's using energy. He has to try to get past the Ferrari and create a gap as early as possible if he wants to be able to win the race on that strategy. So I'll just try to stick with him. Both get a tank slap out of there. Seems like myself, the Ferrari, the Red Bull and the AlphaTauri behind, we all broke out of the DRS of Mercedes behind, so right now it's a 3-horse race for the lead.
Plenty of energy. Use the overtake button and have a go. Come on, you can do this.
On to the end of lap 2. The Red Bull goes for the move on the Ferrari.
We can now use
I burn a bit of energy to try and stick with them as the DRS gets enabled. Now what we'll try to do is stay in the DRS of the Red Bull to try and get as much benefit off of him with his better pace on the medium tyres. Into the hairpin, the AlphaTauri behind me nearly takes me out in the break-in, but we get through safely. As you can see, the Red Bull, he's already drawn away as we cut to the beginning of lap 4. Ferrari just in the DRS of the Red Bull. And I'm sticking with him. Now onto the back straight. And it looks like the Red Bull, he already broke the DRS to the Ferrari, so we're already out of the DRS of him and he's gonna get away with his softer tyres. Now at the beginning of lap 5. The gap is staying steady between myself and the Ferrari. We seem to have pretty even pace at this point. Not sure what wings he's running, if he made the same mistake as me to run extra wings, but now midway through lap 6 I make a mistake and get my first track limits warning of the race. And here the Ferrari Runs pretty wide and gets a poor exit, and this sets him up really bad for the start for his straight. So here I was thinking maybe I could try and overtake him, see if I could run a better pace in front of him, but he burns his ARS, so I decided to just save mine and stick behind for now, not to waste any ERS at this point. And the lap 8, the gap pretty much stays the same. And right here, well, the Ferrari, he already got 3 track limit warnings, so he already had a 3-second penalty.
Okay, so
Start the lap 9.
by 3.9 seconds.
Still a 3-second gap. And once again, Ferrari seems to run wide there a lot of times, and that was the widest he run so far. So once again, I'm trying to set up possibly a move into turn 1. Sticking right to his gearbox. Depending on how much ERS he burns, I'll decide whether to go past or not. It looks like he wants to keep the position. He's gonna burn his ERS, so I decide to just stay behind for now. So I'm at lap 11 now, and there I got my second track limits warning in a very weird way on the entry of a corner. That usually doesn't happen, and here once again the Ferrari runs right through the right-hander, and once again I try to see if he'll let me go past and not waste too much energy, but once again he seems to still want the position, so I save the energy and stay behind. Now we're on to the end of lap 12. The Ferrari gets a huge tank slamper, but once again, still he just burns his energy and tries to keep the position. So I just stay behind, and now we're on to the start of lap 14. Gap stays the same, and lap 14, gap still the same. And now I believe this is when the Red Bull pits, so since he's on the softer tires he had to pit earlier, and me and the Ferrari we continue on.
That puts you into P2, second place.
In the lap 17,
Approaching the pit window, and you're going to be on mediums.
gap still at 3/10. Now at the start in the lap 17, it seems like this is the lap the Ferrari decides he wants to pit, so he starts burning his energy to get a faster in lap. So then he decided I'll go 1 lap extra and just stick with him and get the benefit of the DRS. So stay with him for the rest of the lap. Had to burn a bit of energy to stay with him, since he was also burning. But despite that, I managed to stay pretty close to him coming to the end of the lap. To the point where we pretty much draw right behind him at the end. Now through the last corner, I start to burn my energy as he enters the pit. I set the fastest lap, also get the benefit of the DRS, and now I continue on to do my in-lap, and now I'll use up all my energy.
Leading our teammate by 6.8 seconds.
Down this back straight, burn a bit more energy. Now pushing as hard as possible on this lap. Getting really close to the track limits, trying to get as much time out of the car as possible. Gonna set us up for a good chance of taking the lead, or taking the net lead at the end of my pit stop. Now heading into the last corner. Getting ready for the pit entry, and this has to be one of the closest pit entries possible. I think millimeters later, and that would have been a penalty. Now into the pits. A little late with the exit from the pits, but still a pretty good pit stop. Now we're looking at the Red Bull and the Ferrari and the mini-map coming down the start finish straight. I'm right at the pit exit, and we exit right in front of both cars. We jump both the Ferrari and the Red Bull during the pit stop, so lane lap and possibly that pit entry gave me the lead of the race. And I have a pretty good gap to them. I'm almost out of the DRS, so I decided to try and see what I can do if I can pull out of the DRS. The gap right now is at 8/10, and it looks like the two of them are battling each other, which just helps me more. It helps me to run away from them. So now onto the back straight on lap 21, and Ferrari got past the Red Bull, but he also got in the DRS of myself, so I continue to try and break out of the DRS of them. And as you can see, the Ferrari has 11 seconds of penalties. I believe he sped in the pit lane, so he went a bit further than I did, and he actually got a penalty for speeding in the pit lane, which I narrowly avoided. And I think he also got more penalties for track limits, so he's not having the best day, the guy in the Ferrari. And so now on to the beginning of lap 23. I got out of the DRS, but the Ferrari behind, he's burning energy to stay within it. So I'm just trying my best to keep it clean and keep the pace up, try and get away from him. And at the end of lap 23, I managed to get out of the DRS by half a second. So at this point, feeling pretty comfortable. Lap 25, lap 26, lap 27. The gap stays the same, around 1.6 seconds. So I was feeling pretty good at this point.
And that's just 5 laps of fuel remaining.
As you can hear, the engineer came over the radio telling me that I was marginal on fuel. So even though I put extra fuel in the car, it wasn't enough, and I was going to be marginal on fuel to the end of the race, so I would need to lift and coast. This was the first attempt. Yeah, not great. I haven't had to lift and coast much to make it to the end of races, and well, now I was going to have to do it if I want to win my first race. So through turn 1 and 3 and this corner here, big lift and coast to save the fuel, and that kept the fuel at plus 0.05 for about the rest of the race. You can see on lap 32. So now onto the final lap. With the fuel started, I was able to breathe a bit. The Ferrari started to burn energy, but it didn't matter at this point. He had a ton of penalties. I was still trying to make sure I don't get that last track limit warning and get a 3-second penalty of my own, but at this point I was pretty nervous, but I had a good bit of breathing room and just trying to keep it clean. And now finally, through the last corner, after a year and a bit and 4 seasons, this is my 4th season in PSGL, I finally crossed the line in first position.
Thank you. Fucking finally. Thank you, guys.
Now I hope that opens room for many more wins to come.